Hi and welcome to the channel. Today we will be setting up XCP-ng 8.3 with its basic configuration as well as the XCP-ng center. The center is just software that will help you get things going. Now regarding the XOA from source one, I will be setting up in the next video. This might be coming in possibly later in the week. So let's begin. Now here I've just prepared a Ventoy USB. I've plugged it in the front and I will just boot off the USB. Let's find XCP-ng. Now unlike TrueNAS, Scale, XCP-ng actually works really well from Ventoy. So I'm just gonna go install. Alright, this will take a minute. The software itself is not very large. So while this is bringing up the menu, when you go to the XCP-ng website, you will see 8.2 is still the LTS. So 8.3 is technically not the LTS, but 8.3 just comes with so many new features that it's almost a must upgrade for a lot of people. So 8.2, LTS 8.3, so you would just download the ISO, throw it on Ventoy, or as it says, burn it with Rufus, or sorry, create it with Rufus. You just boot off it, and then you install it as any other NAS operating system. Now while this is doing whatever it's doing, let's wait around, it shouldn't take too long. Now the initial install for XCP-ng only takes, I'm gonna say probably about 15 minutes. I don't really pay attention to when I do have to do it, and I do have a small form factor or a micro or a tiny PC on my desk here that I just done the other day for internal use. So I myself use XCP-ng almost daily. 8.3, I don't have many systems, or next to none, that have been upgraded to 8.3. So a lot of it would be me just going through it. So let's go. Alright, we're just gonna install as normal. I will keep it everything to the minimum. So at the moment there should be two 500 gig SSDs in here, and I think about 6 1.2 terabyte SAS drives. I do have 6 SSDs in here, but I've had some issues with some of the installs and I haven't had a chance to figure out why some operating systems don't like. So in this case, because XCP-ng supports the software RAID, it's actually the normal Linux software RAID, so it's very broadly compatible. I'm actually going to go software RAID here, and I will tick the first two, and then I will go create. So again, keep in mind when you it will format the drives. And 8.3 personally for production, I think it's amazing. It is probably a little bit. We want to install XCP-ng. Didn't I give you? Yeah, okay. So we want to install it on the RAID. Okay. Virtual machines. Now we'll put it on the same RAID again for now. Now this is a choice some of you will have to make. Now ext gives you thin provisioning, and LVM is technically faster, but LVM is thick provisioning. So imagine it this way: you've got 1 TB of storage. I'm going to say 1 TB to make it simple. And you make 3 VMs with 300 gigs hard drive, so to say. Now on ext, it will only occupy, let's say, 50 gigs all up, depending on the usage of each of those 3 VMs. On LVM, it will occupy 900 gigs. Okay, now the second drawback with LVM is that those backups generally will also consume 300 gigs each. Obviously, the initial one plus. Again, I might be wrong about the backups, but that's what I recall a couple of years ago when I actually had machines deployed LVM, and I converted them all to ext because the empty space I was throwing away is unbelievably high. So, and with ext, you can just provision it with 300 gigs, for example, or 100 gig. And if it's using a gig, it will only consume 1 gig, which is amazing. So that's what we're going to do in this case. I'm going to say ext, not LVM. And let's go OK. Again, just OK. OK. It's just a normal install. If you've ever installed Linux, this is probably 10 times simpler than most Linux installs, because it is a very simple process. You install it, you go next, next, next. Give it a password. Oh. I'm just giving it a simple password now. This is the management interface. Now this server is still connected, so if you had this deployed, let's say in a data center, you would maybe make if0 the one that's connected to the data center, and if1 your internal network, because you don't want the console to be accessible from every single port. Now in this case, I'm going to follow my practice, which means this will be incoming traffic, this will be internal traffic. So I will put it on if1. Okay. IPv4, as it says v6 is a little buggy. I've not used it. I usually don't have it enabled. So I will leave it at IPv4. DHCP, I'll just leave it on. If you did have something, you would give it a name here. XCP-ng home lab. Everything else I will leave default. Now I'm not in Africa, I'm in Australia, in Victoria or Melbourne, I guess. Use default. You can, if your DHCP is outputting this, you can do this. Default will just have what XCP-ng is pre-programmed. I don't recall what those are, or you can provide them manually. I'm just going to say default. Now this option was not available in 8.2. In 8.2 you only had the manual method, which took forever to enter. Okay, install. Now I'm probably going to stop it here and I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, it's finished installing. I was doing something else, so I'm just going to hit OK. And technically it should restart and come back on to XCP-ng. So I'll be right back. I've ordered 2 16 cores. That should be here in a week or two for bigger labs, because these 2 6 cores are just not good enough for some labs that are way more demanding. But let's keep watching this. Okay, so I stepped out for a second, but it looks like it's installed. Now the way we proceed to the next part, I'll go through the interface that you'll see if you did just freshly install it. So you just have the basic status that gives you the IP address, the network interface. This is also where you can change the management interface. Authentication, we're not logged in obviously at the moment. Virtual machines, now we don't have any running. If we did, it would be listed here. Disk and storage, so currently we just have the local. I've never tried to create new repositories from here. You could probably do it, I'd guess. Yeah, you could. I'm not sure how easy it would be to do, but I'm just going to exit out of here. Resource pools, I don't think this is going to have anything, because this would be in case you're attempting to join or obviously remove yourself from a pool, or if you were promoting, you would probably have to do this on the master. If you had this part of a cluster, you could possibly promote a new master from here. That's interesting. I don't know if this was available at 8.2. Just basic information, so nothing fancy. Keyboard and time zone. So time zone Australia. I'm pretty sure we set this already. Remote services, enable, disable, so this must be SSH. I don't recall if it's enabled by default, to be honest. But again, 8.3 technical support, this might be if you had a proper license. Reboot, and then obviously local shell. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to this address 172.16.69.16, I think it was. Accept, root, and it would be whatever password we set. Oh. So apparently I had caps lock on when I did it. Lucky it's a simple password. Now top right is where you can just deploy the normal Xen. So you could probably just leave everything default, give it an address. I might just do that for just for the purpose of this video. Interesting, SSH it leaves on by default. So let's just deploy this. Can we label it here? Am I missing something? Probably not. So local, let's just deploy it, see what that will do. Do not refresh or quit tab before end of deployment. So let's wait this out for a couple of minutes and then we'll proceed. Now it says don't refresh tab. Doesn't say I can't click something. So I'm curious. Power on your VM to access console. So honestly, I've never deployed a normal one. Actually, while that's happening in the background, what we're gonna do is I should already have this downloaded, but if not, I'll just download it again. Okay. Come on. I'm extracting it. So I must be blind because it didn't extract. Yeah, it did. Okay. So I'm just going to run this. So the XCP-ng center, the old one, is actually no longer compatible with 8.3. So I'm just gonna type in the IP address here. I think there was 16, and I think here it was in caps. Okay, so you could choose to save these details. I'm just gonna hit OK. I'll tell it to save. This is connecting. So orange generally indicates that it's doing something. So I generally tend to do the initial setup from here. So this is where I'm going to add. Can we add it from? Again, keep in mind this XOA Lite interface is meant to only give you the ability to do light tasks. So storage, I can't click it yet. Task is obviously telling us what's happening. So this seems to be importing or making the VM. So 4 minutes. VMs. Now one benefit with XCP-ng, so as you see, I've just deployed a normal XOA. Okay, so it just ran. That is pretty good. But the config in there, you can just export it and then import it into a fresh new VM if you choose to do so. And this VM is not important. It's basically a dummy. The config is important. So I can make an open source one and just link it to this XCP-ng master or host, and that new XOA will take over control of this. So you're not limited by this VM and it being up. As long as you have an exported config, spin up a new VM, import the config, and everything just springs back to life. Now this will function if this VM is broken. This will continue working. So this VM does not need to be on to manage anything. What the XOA does manage is scheduling backups, certain tasks, user access for the web interface, certain logs, notifications, a number of things. Now I don't know how much of that is paywalled. If you're just using the normal XOA, I think a lot of it, or it's very limited. But they do have the open source one, which I'm going to make a second video about, maybe in a week or two, depending how I go with my time. And the open source one can do everything: unlocked, unrestricted, unlimited, literally everything. So okay, so that would be it. Does this tell us what I guess not. It doesn't tell me what the IP address is, but let's see what what this tells us. So it's a Debian 12. So this is telling us it's on 19. As you see, we do have the console here. We can just choose to scale it. We can undock it if we wanted to. We can snapshot it. So take a snapshot. Test XOA. Okay, so for most people this XCP-ng center will probably be plenty. It's limited in what you can do because obviously you can do this, you can't automate anything through here. From memory, I think you can configure notifications for performance. Yeah, you can do GPU pass-throughs, etc. Which are somewhere. Okay, it doesn't matter. So this is on 16, this was on 19. So XOA is on 19. So let's go to actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run you through the center and what options we got. Now if you had the pool, all three of them would be listed on the left. If we're attempting to add this to a pool, we would just select it and say add server, and then we would add it to the pool. Now you can actually have 2, 3, 4, 5 here that are not part of the pool, and you can move VMs between them. The issue will be that for some part of that migration move, the VM will need to turn off, where if they're part of the pool, it will actually dumb down the CPU capabilities and a lot of other functions to whatever the weakest link is. So that way you can streamline the move from A to B without the VM being taken offline. Okay, now I generally do this. This is why I would create a new repository. So you can do SMB or NFS. So I'm just gonna go SMB because in this case it's easier. Let me see. Let me see what that was. Okay. And so this is how I do my initial deployment. What I used to have to do in the past, when this tool was horrible, I would have to run some command prompt and actually make that locally inside the host, which obviously usually has very limited resources. But now if you have a look here, so all the ISOs that I currently have ready to go are available, and you can just create a new VM by right clicking this VM, pick I don't know, let's say Alma 9, or what else have we got? I just do Debian. Now we can tell it to copy the settings from the host if we wanted to, and that way the VM will think it's bare metal technically, kind of. You point it at the host you want, give it a name, call it correctly. We're going to see Debian. If we wanted to, we could do this, but keep in mind all of them need to be 8.3. All the hosts will need to be 8.3, and I think that stores it as the same location as the main. So we're gonna say full, let's say 4 cores. We're going to say 1 socket and 4 cores. We can do 2 sockets, 2 cores. 4 gigs of RAM. Well, let's just do 8. Next, if we had a GPU to pass through, we would pass it through. There is actually a GPU in here, so technically we could pass it through. We're not going to do that. Now storage allocation, by default, most of the templates have a default minimum. As you see, the default minimum is 10 gigs, but we can just say, let's say 40. I will just label this the same so I know what it is. Next. Networking, so by default it will assign all of them. So any that you don't want, remove. So I'm gonna just say network 1, which I think corresponds to ETH1. I'm pretty sure, I think 4 and 5 are 10 gigs. I think network 1 is ETH1. Next, start. And you will be able to, that's how you make a VM. Here you just go to the console, scale it, and you do everything you need to do. Did we not? Yeah, we did. Okay. Reboot. Did I not set a boot order? Okay, so we'll just do, technically I don't need to do that. Auto start on server boot, we won't ignore that. Let's do, you can, I think, just hit escape a few times during boot. That takes you to the BIOS from memory. It's a little bit tricky because they boot really fast. So I'm just attempting to, so secure boot is messing with us. Yeah. That's how you make a VM. Obviously, if it's not secure boot, don't set it secure boot. That's all. This is pool. We don't really have much because we don't have a pool. To make a HA cluster, you need 3 of them. Ideally, they need to be identical. That includes RAM, disk allocation, etc. Server, again, we're not adding anything. That's all fine. Backup, storage. Can we actually make a local? Let's try local because I've got multiple disks in here. Let's see what options we get. So we probably can't. That's fine. So that's what XOA is for. We'll run that up in a minute. I think that was on 19 from memory. Yes, 19. 172.16.69.19. Oh. Is that what I made the user? Yeah, it is. Okay, so here we are in XOA. Obviously, this is not registered, so you can't do updates. You can still SSH in and do updates if you don't want to register it. But the registration is free, and it will allow you to do manual updates here. There's no automated stuff. So to get started, we say add server. Now you can just type in the name of the server, which in our case is that. We're just gonna do that because it's easier. And then it was root, and then we had the caps lock on. And if you did have SSL certificates, you won't need to do that, but we're gonna click that and say connect. All right, now this is connected. We know because that's gone green, and it's a standalone pool. Now, if this was part of a broader pool, it would actually. So let's go to host. Okay, now as you can see, it's telling us we have 7 updates. But what we can do is we can actually, can we get there from here? Yeah, we can. Now, because this is CentOS based, what we can do is sudo yum update. Yes. You could obviously program something externally to do this for you. I would not recommend automating updates in any case. But that's just update. Actually, I think CentOS does update and upgrade at the same time. It's not like Ubuntu where the commands are separate. Again, I might be wrong. So you could SSH in there, or you can just run it from the console, which you do have the option to from in here as well if we were still logged in. Okay, let's just watch that. This should be done soon. All right, it's done. So technically, if we wanted to, we can reboot it. We don't have to. Now down here, you generally have a few other options in the way you want to view them, because snapshots are split off. You have templates. If you actually had a VM and you want to make it a template, you can say convert to template, and this will become a template. So if you did want to make a template of, let's say, Debian 12, you can do the initial configuration, configure all the username, passwords, essentials, and then convert it to a template. Now keep in mind, when you do this, it will destroy that VM and make it a template, but then you'll be able to just say new VM, and it will be listed here as a template. You would pick that custom one that we made, and obviously you can do something like spin it off from a snapshot as well, if you wanted to make a copy of a VM. This has a lot of potential, but let's go back here. Now this is Xen Orchestra, their orchestration tool. Your VMs will be listed here. At the top by default it will be running state. If you get rid of this, it will show you all of them. You can select a VM and give it names. Test, I'll show you that later. So I've given this a test here. You got snapshots, you got backups if it was part of a backup. I think you can restore from here as well. This is the disk. If you wanted to attach another disk to this, you can. If you wanted to make a new disk and add it, you can. If you wanted to resize it, you can, but you need to turn that VM off first, resize it, and then you would need to internally expand that partition. Could be a little bit tricky with LVMs. If you wanted to give it a different network card, you would just pick a different network card and assign it, and it will spring to life. That's just a console. Yeah, fine. Stats. Now the stats you're only going to get if the Xen tools are installed. By default, you have to go to the Xen website, and you're going to find the commands there. Or you can mount an ISO, which is by default installed as the guest tools. Comes with them. And there's going to be some commands that you would run to actually install the Xen tools. Now this tells you basic information. This tells you it's the management agent. Now if we go to the Debian one, okay, so here actually I'm familiar with this interface. So here we can tell it okay, so we can't yeah, secure boot, and let's delete the VTPM. VTPM. Okay. This is what you would, if you wanted to allocate a GPU as well later after the fact. It works actually really well. Obviously, you will not be able to move that VM between hosts, even if they have an identical GPU. Keep that in mind. Any pass-through is stuck. Now, if this was a Windows VM, this is very important. In the past, you would have to get a third-party package to install it, but 8.2 and 8.3, you would just enable this. And what that will do is the Windows Update Manager, so the default Windows Update, will actually detect the drivers and it will get Windows Update to install them for you. Which is very nice. Obviously, you can't do that for the Linux ones. For the Linux, there's going to be some command prompt tools you run. For Debian and Ubuntu, you generally get them from the disk. For Red Hat, etc., there's just a rel command you run and it installs it directly off the repo. For Alma, you add the Red Hat repo first and then you install it. Alright, I'm mumbling too much. So that's just VM, a very basic. VM has a lot of functions. So stats, console, let's actually get one that works. Stats, console, networking, this, snapshot, backup, logs. It will tell you when it was rebooted last. And advanced, this is where we would change the boot order, remove something. If we wanted it one socket 2, because this was only given 2 cores. Here on the front page, if we do this, let's say I do 4 here. Okay, it won't let me, it's going to ask me to reboot it, which is fine. Okay. Is that going to change it? Console. I have a feeling that will not change it. I obviously changed it on myself. Stupid me. That makes sense. So I can't change it to myself because that would be crazy. Actually, I'll show you that in a minute. Let's turn that back on. Which is why this tool is amazing. You don't need the main console to be up. You usually can get yourself up and running fairly quickly. As you saw, I almost would have locked myself out because I'm like, hey, I changed it on myself and it's not refreshing. Now, one weird about this interface is it will look very responsive despite that VM actually being off. Yeah, come on, VM. Is it up yet? Yeah, that looks up. Yeah, I probably broke it. I have a feeling I may have. Oh, did we somehow clear the setting? I've never done that before. Connect. Now, you are not limited to just having one Xen orchestration tool linked to a host. You could actually have multiple if you really wanted to. I'm not sure why you would want to do that, but you can. Now, we gave that 4 cores, and on the last page is where you can actually tell it how you want those cores allocated. Now, technically, this supports, if I change this, I don't know if I can do it while it's on. If I change that to, like, let's say 16, back here I would be able to tell dynamically how much to allocate. Let's say 1 gig to 16, and will grow as it's being used, which is very nice. So host pools, we don't have a pool. You would probably only have one pool with all the hosts under there. Templates, storage, we only have that ISO store. You can add more by just going new storage. Pick the VM, give it a name, select what you're actually mounting. So let's say NFS. You type in the details as it gives you an example, and it will mount it. If I say local ZFS, can I create it? Because I thought we can create a local ZFS pool these days. So no shared location. I've not done the local ZFS here before, so I'm not sure if you can create it through here. I'll find that out when I make Xen Orchestra from source one, but this will give you a brief rundown. Now the dashboard, basic summary. If you actually want things visualized, it's an upsell. A lot of the things are very upsell. Health, self-service, useless, backups. Now I think you do have a basic backups. Let's see which ones we got. New, mirror. Okay, so you cannot do any of them apparently. So there is no backups in this version. Now I heard Veeam might be releasing something. This is updates, but we've already done them before manually, as you saw, so you don't have to do this if you don't want to. This is all the server settings. So users is actually for the Xen orchestration tool. Groups, ACL, remotes. Now remotes is actually going to be network resources generally for backup. So if you wanted to say, let's say AWS S3, now this will work for other S3 like MinIO, etc. You would just whack in the details here and it will just work. NFS, now this remotes on the server is primarily for backups. Plugins, because this is the free version, it basically comes with nothing. The from source comes with crap ton of plugins. Again, you'll just have to see that in the from source video. Logs are very basic audit logs. You know, I don't really do the cloud init and the configuration stuff. I generally make my templates the good old way. Now the hub is something you cannot access with from source one. Certain things that do lock you out. I don't think there's anything particular in here that we're going to need, or at least that I use. Now proxies. Now proxies from memory require a paid version. What a proxy is, you basically have one of these at a different location that will talk to VMs, that will talk to hosts. And this VM, this Xen Orchestra, will talk to the proxy to relay commands like backups and etc. I think that was a paid feature, register a proxy. I might be wrong. About, so at the moment, yep, nothing in here. Usually what it will tell you here is the version of Xen Orchestra that you're on. Task is going to show you what's happening at the moment. I'm not sure why these two are running. Something is attempting to connect the console. Now this is also paid. Now this is like HCI from memory. I'm pretty sure this is a paid feature that you can't use. You basically have a cluster of this, and it's scalable and it's redundant, and it's meant to work really fast. I've not tested it myself. Now the import function might be handy for a lot of you guys. You can just drag and drop a file in here to import it. Now you can also SSH in into the storage location and dump it. I'm not sure if I want to make that video, because these days it's probably not needed. Again, from disk, import from VM. So this is if you had a ESXi server or a Xen server. Okay, new is just VM storage network server. This is just linking it to a server. Network is a new network interface if you needed to make one. Obviously, if you needed to bond. Private ones, they only work, I think, inside that VM, inside that host, in case you needed it to work from one VM to another. Again, I might be wrong. Storage is just the standard storage we went through before. You just follow the wizard and you go next, and you should be good to go. I don't think there's anything else worth mentioning on here. Jobs, so you can technically automate certain things to happen if you really wanted to, but you know, I generally get another VM to do all of this for me. Now I think that sums up Xen Orchestra briefly and XCP-ng. Now personally I picked XCP-ng because it's very scalable. You have one VM that controls everything, and actually I will just show you briefly. Settings, XO config. So if you, I mean, cloud backup, I don't know if that requires an account, but you can just export the config from this VM. I just say 1, 2, 3. Okay, no, come on. Okay, so sorry, so I had blocked pop-ups, that's why it wasn't working. But this basically gives you the configuration file. And if I just made this new VM, I would just say import, drag it in here, import, click, the VM restarts and everything springs back to life. Now when you do the Xen backups here, you will actually have the XO config and pull metadata. You can back that up to somewhere, and then in case something does happen, you just grab that config and you're up and running fairly quickly. Now Xen Orchestra will work on pretty much anything. I generally spin it up in either Debian or Alma, and again, you'll have to go and watch that video when I release it in a week or two. So I think I'm gonna leave it at this. This should probably give you a good or decent understanding on how this works. It is probably confusing at the start. Again, I'm gonna make XOA from source that will have all the functions, which I'll run through in more depth. And if I did make a storage on the NAS, I could have deployed this on the NAS as well. So currently this is local. Okay, I think that's it for the day. Hope to see you here again, and have a good day. Bye.